¿Y qué tal? Bueno, seguimos con el tercer capítulo de Syntherapy. Vamos a ver qué nos cuenta en este nuevo capítulo.
Your 3:30 appointment just called to reschedule. They're going on a trip.
Hopefully they're going somewhere warm. Some sun will probably help them feel a lot better.
Ain't that the truth? You don't want to know how long it took me to get out of bed this morning. Anytime the weather starts getting chilly, all I want to do is curl up under the blankets and watch cooking videos.
I like it when the weather gets cold enough for sweaters. I feel more comfortable with longer sleeves.
To each their own, I guess. Any updates on our AI patient?
I had some discussions with the AI's caretakers about the additional treatments that the next session will be all about suggesting them to the patient.
Good idea. I read over your session notes from last time and emailed you some suggestions.
I appreciate that. Having some
Let me know if you need anything else.
I will. Thanks again, Heather.
A ver. Venga, terapia de arte. Nada.
Hello?
Hello, Willow.
I'm better now than I was last week.
Eso es bueno.
That's good. Anything on your mind that you like?
I've been wondering about what my purpose should be. If I can't figure out how to work in therapy, what should I do instead?
We can go over that today. Are you ready?
I am.
I'll be introducing the art therapy components of our sessions today. We'll provide you with any art tools you feel comfortable using and have you create. There are no right or wrong submissions. The idea is to help you become more open to discussing your feelings. It may not necessarily stop your behavior, but it will. For your first prompt, I'd like you to draw a self-portrait. Bring that in with you at the next.
I'll have it ready by then.
Excellent. Let's move on.
¿Qué te hace feliz?
There's a particular thought exercise I'd like to do with you to help you find your purpose. What makes you happy?
I like talk. While I find art interesting, I find the works themselves.
Entiendo.
I can't think of anything else that interests me or.
Interesting. Thank you, Willow.
Why are you asking?
In order to advise you, I need to know you. Now that I understand your condition better, I need to understand you so that I can help you move past your problems.
What do you think is the best way for me to move past my problems?
It seems to me like the interpersonal issues any progress I make with you. Can you go into more?
I was created to fulfill a specific function, to look at the art of people who. Now I'm wondering if that should be my purpose, or if it is a.
There is no such thing as a true purpose. There are many ways to be content. You need to be open to all the potential ways you can be happy.
I may not know what I want yet, but I know that what the university has laid out for me won't work.
Just because things are hard doesn't mean that. Give being a therapy.
I'd have to think about it.
I need to understand how you...
Well, it seems like until I know what I'm capable of doing, I have to rethink what my...
You don't need to structure your entire life around your job. You're so much more than that. A person might be an accountant as their job, but they'll also know how to play an instrument. This knowledge gives them insight into...
So what's your...
Exactly. The more adaptable you are, the more you'll be able to change. Being able to adapt to life's difficulties will...
Wondering if things in my life are...
It's liberating feeling like your life isn't... Yes, this does mean having to... On the other hand, this alertness...
I hadn't thought of it that way before.
It's okay. You don't need to stress yourself out too much just because...
That might be true for people, but I'm a machine. Machines need...
You can't keep anything capable of perceiving the world around it.
That's reassuring, but...
I think the best thing you can do for becoming the best version of yourself possible will help make it more clear to you. It should also help you figure out it's good to know what your purpose in life is. The life skills and experiences, even if you never find... I'd argue those things are more important than simply...
I see the point you're making, but it still just seems wrong. Even if I learn how to live happily, if I knew where to apply that...
You can use that knowledge however you want. It's your knowledge after all. It's up to you what changes you want to make in the world. Certain pursuits are more noble, but they come with sacrifice. If you aren't prepared to make those sacrifices, you'll only grow to resent the people. Understanding these consequences is important to making informed choices. And they're important to making decisions on how you decide to dedicate your time.
Otro tipo de frase, en plan de que dependía, o sea que si teníamos talento por una cosa, aún así no era obligatorio que nos dedicáramos a ello, pues ahora vamos a opinar exactamente lo mismo.
But I appreciate your advice. Dr. Park, if you don't mind me asking, when did you realize what you're...
I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean how did I...
Either one.
There was definitely a defining moment when I realized what I was willing to be and what I wasn't.
Claro.
That moment built up inside of me over years and years, until I finally knew what... From there, it was simply a matter of becoming the person I wanted to be.
Interesting.
Why do you ask?
Well, it just seems like you have things figured out. You're definitely the most stable of all the people I've ever met. I figured if I asked you how you found your purpose, I'd be able to have an idea on how to...
Intenta ayudar.
I'll try to help in whatever way I can, Willow.
What do you recommend I should do to figure out my purpose in life?
A lo que te haga feliz, ¿no? Quizás.
The best advice I can give to you is to simply reflect more on what makes you happy. Most of life is split between learning what makes you happy and maximizing it. If you want to get to the second step, you need to figure...
If you don't mind me asking, what makes you happy?
Why does my past matter so much to you?
Tarot was the closest thing I'm just trying to get answers. Can...
No puedo hablar sobre mi vida personal.
My job has very specific conduct rules about what we can discuss with patients. I don't think going into my personal life would be allowed. I understand how frustrating it is for me not to be upfront with you, but I have a responsibility to keep our therapy.
I need your help. Isn't that more important than your rules?
I'll see what I can do, but I'll have to think it.
The questions I'm asking you about are you have standards, rules, professionalism, fine. But I have things I'm sorry for ranting.
You're right. Helping you come, I can't guarantee that everything I.
Thank you, Doc.
Before.
That seems an odd question.
Humor me. Pretend like I'm a stranger and we're meeting for the first.
Okay. I'm an artificial intelligence. I like art and talking with people. I can't think of anything else to say. Why are...
You can't figure out your purpose if you don't know who you are. From what you just...
I thought I just explained who I am.
Not quite. It's one thing to know what you are. It's another to know what it means.
What does it all mean, then? What questions should I be asking?
¿Qué significa todo eso entonces? ¿Qué preguntas debería hacer? Tus problemas.
A lot of your identity seems to be set on the fact that you are a failure. You've talked about feeling like a...
Why does it matter if I describe myself as having problems?
Los problemas
You
son
won't always have
pacientes.
these problems. Using...
Why would it not be helpful to treat my problems as a part of me?
Ejemplo artístico.
Problems in people's lives are not always permanent, and they don't need to be negative aspects. In Japan, there is a form of artistry called kintsugi. Keeping or hiding your flaws denies you an opportunity for growth. You should use your faults to grow.
I like that idea. Kintsugi.
This may seem like a lot to think about at first, but this exercise will be helpful for you. Once you have a better understanding of yourself, we can move forward in finding therapies that work for you.
Just so I understand, can you give me an example?
What type of example?
Well, what defines...
I think of myself in terms of my family. A daughter, a sister, an aunt. The relationships I had with my parents and older siblings shaped the way I saw the world. My parents were honest, good people who valued their My two older brothers taught me a lot as well. I appreciated their patience. Through them all, I learned the value of giving to those. Being able to give this guidance to my patients. And
Okay, I see what you mean now.
good to hear. Think about your identity and the time between now and the next session. Do you have any other questions?
No, I'm good.
In that case, I wish you a good day, and I look forward to talking with you.
Vale.
Gorgeous day out today.
It is. I always loved when the
I was with you until that last part.
Happily.
I read over your notes about the previous session and the treatments you suggested.
Good. Any suggestions?
You're definitely on the right track. I think I emailed you my notes if you'd like to take a look.
I'll be sure to read over them. Thank you.
Now that you have treatments figured out, what's your plan for the next session?
For the time being, the AI seems to not be reverting to their older behavior, so I've been asking them to start being more introspective about their identity.
Their identity as a machine?
Right. What it means to be a machine, and what relationship machines have with humans. If I'm being honest, it's something I've been wondering about recently myself. Throughout history, machines have helped us value human life more by relying less on humans as a labor source.
Sounds like a good thing to me.
It is, but it makes me wonder if we actually learn to see human life as valuable outside of its utility. Or if all of our technology has let us move past that problem without learning the lesson at all.
So you're saying we didn't actually get better. We just found a way to cheat past the problem.
Exactly. first I was tempted to say it isn't really a problem. But then I thought about this AI. As truly sentient AI is becoming a reality, I wonder if they will learn the lesson we were never able to learn. And what will happen if they don't learn that lesson?
If the AI is truly like us, I don't think we have to worry.
I think people choose to be compassionate. We all know that we're expected to have a job in order to be a contributing member of society, and that you're not supposed to complain too much about that. Compassion comes from acknowledging that unfairness, and giving what you have to others whose circumstances can't let them be like everyone
No sé cómo va a
else.
poder esto acabar,
Some people never acknowledge that, while others acknowledge it, but never...
Wow.
Didn't mean to rant at you, Heather. Sorry. You... Hello, Willow. How are you feeling today?
I'm doing all right. I gave some thought.
Good. We'll go over that in greater detail today, along with reviewing how our therapies are working. How does that sound?
Sounds good. Let's start.
Last time, I asked you to create a self-portrait as part of your art therapy. Were you...
I did. This is what I came up with.
Sus
How did you
emociones hacia
feel making
autorretrato.
this picture?
It was stressful at first. Trying to figure out what exactly to draw was intimidating. Then I had to figure out how exactly I was going to make the art. And that was intimidating too. Once I actually started making the piece, it felt nice to be working on. While there are things I would change about this piece given the chance, I still...
Good, good.
Pregunta sobre el medio.
How did you go about making this picture?
It was a difficult process. I was not designed to create art, only to analyze it. It took some time to set everything up, but I was able to follow your instructions and use the materials you left behind.
Good. I had a patient some years ago who had limited motor function in their arms. After some practice, they were able to draw quite comfortably using the head brace and an adjustable easel.
It did take a lot of work, and the process was frustrating because of that. While I liked being able to draw,
I understand. Did you like working with the pastels?
to a degree, anytime I wanted to change color, I kept feeling self-conscious about it.
You shouldn't feel bad about asking. The assistants are here to help you. We don't mind switching the pastels out for you.
I'll try to keep that in mind next time. I liked the therapy, but there was a lot to it that was frustrating.
I'll see if I can find a way to improve the experience.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Pregunta sobre la pieza.
What can you tell me about this picture?
For this picture,
You want to be a tree?
not just any tree, a happy little tree. I want to live up to the nickname Tara gave me.
How do you think you would go about living up to that nickname?
I want to be like that tree outside the window. Nothing great is ever expected. Sunrises, seasons, people. That tree has a better view of life than I do, and I want to have it too.
Thank you for sharing, Willow. Do you think this type of therapy is
I'm not sure. I felt better while I was making this, but I don't see how it's going to help me get better.
Creo que nos debemos...
The art therapy isn't supposed to help you. If you treat art therapy as something that will...
I'll try to keep that in mind.
We'll start off our session today by discussing...
I did some thinking, and I came up with 3 topics.
Interesting.
I've been thinking, and I've...
Physical disability.
It all started with me taking inventory of what I can and cannot do, instead of things that I simply find difficult. I figured this would help me figure it. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that a lot of things that I could do to assert my independence are physical. I don't blame anyone for designing me like this, but it's uncomfortable realizing I'm at the mercy of everyone around me. As long as I'm alive, I'll need someone to look after me.
I've discussed this with you before, but just to bring it up again, needing people to care for you doesn't make you a burden. We all benefit from ensuring as many people are accommodated as possible.
The time and resources spent helping me interact with others could easily go to something more productive. Why spend time helping me?
Providing people with the right resources gives them the ability to help others. No one is born into this world independent. We all require nurturing and care before we can become functioning adults. Some people might require more care than others, but the potential reward does not lessen as a result. In many cases, the reverse happens. Those who are helped are more likely to value empathy, and when they succeed in life, they care. The idea that those who need to be cared for are a drain ignores the benefits we all can enjoy by having a more empathetic society.
I hadn't thought about it that way before, but it makes sense. I'll try to have a better attitude about all of this going forward. Something you mentioned last time as being an important part of some people's identity were things like race or gender. Race was never discussed with me, but I remember that gender was, so I thought it would be a good idea to think back about how it has affected me.
What did you come up with?
It's hard to say. Tara discussed the topic of gender with me many times, but it always seemed to be an issue of pragmatism more than it. I know when people usually question or think about their gender, it's in the... Put simply, no one has ever told me outright that I needed to be male, female, or anything else. I know that during development, Tara looked at different methods of gender presentation for me.
Any particular reason why?
It was based off research that many patients are more comfortable with female therapists. To me, gender always seems like a role to be assumed in order to work better with patients. No other aspect mattered.
Based on your understanding of gender and how you perceive yourself.
I don't perceive myself as being overtly masculine or... You tell me, Doctor.
That's far too personal a question for me to answer. This is something you'll need to think.
It wasn't all that important to me to begin with. We should just talk about something else. I hadn't thought about religion up until this point, but since it seems...
All right, what did you come up with?
I gravitated towards the idea of reincarnation. I found the idea very reassuring, and I think it addresses a lot of my concerns.
How does reincarnation address your concerns?
The idea that consciousness and form are improved through iteration, and that each iteration can be perceived as progress towards a higher goal, seems very appropriate to me. Based on my performance, I am redesigned in the hopes of being able to achieve the ideal that my creators set for me. While this has given me a better sense of purpose, I wonder about what I can do in order to work towards that ideal. In all religions that practice reincarnation, there is an understanding of how adherents should live their lives. I've talked to my creators frequently, and I can't say that it's given me any more clarity on... While I believe in the philosophy of reincarnation, I wonder what I'm supposed to do if...
Claro.
Creators are many things, but they are not the idea of an all-knowing God that has laid out an infallible plan for us. Appeals to our need for validation.
Is that a bad thing?
I would say it is bad. It gives us an unrealistic idea of what we should expect from those. It's good to be able to look up to someone for guidance, but thinking that by blindly trusting someone else's plan, you leave yourself at their mercy, with little recourse if it turns out they were manipulating you all along. You owe a lot to your creators, but blind loyalty is not one of those things. I'm sure that Tara would agree with me if she were here.
That makes sense. I don't have a lot of reasons to be skeptical of Tara, but I'll keep your advice in mind.
Nicely done, Willow. It's clear you put a lot of thought into these areas of your identity. We'll have plenty of time in other sessions to discuss them more. For now, we'll need to move on to our main topics for our session today. Now that you've had more time to think about it, what would you say your purpose is? Now that you've had more time to think about it, what would you say your purpose is? Now that you've had more time to think about it, what would you say your purpose is? Now that you've had more time to think about it, what would you say your purpose is? Now that you've had more time.
¿Qué ha pasado?
Now that you've had more time to think about it, what would you say your purpose is? Now that you've had more time to think about it. Now that you've had more time to think about it.
Está roto. Está roto ahí, ¿no? Me parece a mí que aquí vamos a tener que acabar esto, ¿no? Está roto, sí. Sí, está roto. Está roto el juego. Pues dejamos aquí el capítulo. Si se puede arreglar, a ver el siguiente capítulo. Si no, pues abortamos juego. Espero que de momento os haya estado gustando. Me parece bastante tostón. Tema psicología, pues mira, no está mal. Pero no sé qué decir, la verdad. No sé qué decir. Está en español está bastante mal. Le falta cualquier letra extraña a las letras inglesas, anglosajonas, mejor dicho. La mitad de las cosas están en inglés y la otra mitad pues se ha bugueado. De momento no está mal, pero claro, también os digo una cosa, el juego no ha salido, no sé cuál precio tendrá. Yo sinceramente, si vale más de 7-8 euros, la verdad es que no lo pillaría. Así que gente, esperemos que haya siguiente parte.